Thank you, thank you. Well, thank you everyone for coming tonight. This has been very interesting, and I'm sorry to say that I am not nearly as prepared as the other speakers because I didn't know it was this formal, so this is a learning experience for me. I'm Joy Monjure, and I am running for position 2 in the 42nd District. I've been in Whatcom County since 1979. I've raised 2 boys, brought them through the Bellingham School District, and I'm a grandmother of 3. Very young grandchildren. My husband of 40 years and I moved to Everson in 1989. I worked for the City of Bellingham Public Works Department for 23 years and retired in 2009 and opened a farm stand called Field of Greens, which is the love of my life right now. Unfortunately, my campaign has required me to go down to 1 day a week, which is sad for me and sad for my wonderful customers, of which we have one right here in front of me. I am running for office because I believe that Washington needs real leadership. I think my experience in community service in this community for many, many years will benefit the people of Whatcom County and benefit the state. Not to mention my age helps too. I've just been around for a long time. This is a very, very special place, and I've learned a lot as a candidate. This has been a wonderful learning experience. I've been a lifelong learner. I participated on the Coalition for Healthy Communities. I've participated on the Commission Against Domestic Violence. I served on the Everson City Council for 8 years. And when I was asked to run for office in the spring, it was a very hard decision for me. My grandchildren are a very important part of my life, and I knew it was going to be a big sacrifice. But as I considered that decision, I decided that that's exactly why I should run, because I had a chance to actually make decisions that would improve their lives. So I'm happy to be here tonight. Thank you.
Well, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for the Tea Party for putting this on, and for everybody that has been supporting both the Tea Party groups, the Whatcom Democrats and the Whatcom Republicans, because without both organizations supporting the Tea Party as well, we would not have the robust debates that we're able to have and the diverse opinions that we're able to share. So it has been an honor. My name is Vincent. I am the current state representative for position 2 here in Whatcom County, and it has been truly an honor serving Whatcom County in the legislature down in Olympia. And I've also had the privilege the last 3 mornings to wake up down in Olympia and walk towards the Capitol building, and it always sets me back a little bit just to realize what people have really entrusted me with here in Whatcom County. As a representative, we represent about 137,000 people, and it is not taken lightly by the members down there. Over the last 4 years, I've had a great opportunity to work on issues that are important for Whatcom County, mostly in the agriculture industry and construction industry. I grew up on a dairy farm, and so that is very important to me. And I also currently have my own construction company, Dutchman Construction, up in Linden. And so construction industry is very important to me as well. But I've also been able to have the opportunity to work on a wide range of legislation, including legislation working with our local child advocacy centers here. Sheriff Elf has been doing a great job with some of our local nonprofits working on that. And last year I was able to work and finally support legislation that supported our homeless housing programs here in Whatcom County. And then I was also able to prime sponsor legislation protecting domestic violence victims from sexual assault in my revenge porn bill. Besides that, I've had a great opportunity working on hemp legislation, whether it be industrial hemp or hemp seed for animals, and also my most interesting bill of last year, which was the sheep's blood bill.
Well, you get to respond to the first question first. You have 2 minutes. For over 30 years, the legislature has budgeted an average of less than 30% of new tax revenues to education. If elected, would you continue this priority of funding for K-12 education?
They funded it by less than 30%?
Less than 30% of new tax revenues have been devoted to education.
Okay.
New tax revenues.
Okay. I believe that the state Supreme Court has mandated that we fully fund education. Whether that takes 30% of new tax revenues or more, I'm not sure what it's going to take. But I believe in our state constitution, and I believe that we need to make sure that we follow the orders of the court. My opponent has signed a letter rejecting the state Supreme Court mandate to adequately fund education, stating that the court lacks the authority to hold the legislature in contempt of its decision, and they will not recognize the order from the court. I believe that our children are our first priority, that our children's education needs to be our top priority, and that our teachers are underpaid and underappreciated, and I think it's going to take some very creative budgeting to figure out how we're going to provide the funding to adequately educate our children. I think that some of the ways that we can look to do that are, again, as has been stated many times tonight, closing tax loopholes that are no longer serving the purpose that they were originally created for. I think that's one place to look. I think it's also another place to look is government efficiency. I think we need to look at how our government functions and make sure that every tax dollar is used wisely. It takes work, it takes time. I think it's very unfortunate that we have sessions that are as short as they are, because I think looking at the number of bills that have to be considered during a legislative session is absolutely overwhelming, and I don't know actually how you do it. But I'm hoping that I get a chance to give it a try. It's a complicated and long process, and I want to do my best to make it work.
Well, unfortunately, given the legislature is not a try isn't the best way to go about it. What we've seen over the last 30 years is one-party control, and under that 30 years, we've seen a deteriorating education system, as well as deteriorating education funding. So what we've been looking at and what we've been accomplishing with the Slim Majority Coalition over the last couple of years is actually increasing the amount of money of our new revenues or new tax dollars that go towards education. Last year we increased just about $1 billion that went towards education, and this year we have about over $3 billion of new taxes that are coming into the state. In fact, the state's revenue forecast just upped that another $300 million just last week. So what we're proposing is putting about another 2/3 of that tax revenue that's coming in towards that. But as one of our previous candidates mentioned, money is not the only answer. There have to be significant reforms that go into that as well, and we've got a number of proposals for that, which our time is much too short to get into.
I agree that we do need to look at reforms, and I think one of the most important reforms that we need to be considering is the excessive testing that goes on in schools right now. Our teachers are struggling to teach because they are constantly having to test and teach to the tests. And I think that if we reduce the number of standardized tests that are required for teachers to teach to, I think our teachers can do a much better job. Other issues that we need to consider are things like the poverty of our students. Children living in poverty cannot come to school ready to learn, and dealing with that issue as our first issue, I think, is absolutely essential if we want our children to be successful adults.
The next question goes to Mr. Buys for 2 minutes. Florida has recently passed legislation making county participation in their Growth Management Act voluntary. Should Washington State consider following suit?
Absolutely. In fact, we've recently passed legislation in Washington State that certain counties with under a particular set level of population and experiencing under a particular rate of growth, such as Stevens County, Monjure County, and I believe Okanagan County was one of those counties. There's no growth in those counties. I think some of those counties, there's maybe one stoplight to have a growth management act in a county like that is absolutely absurd because there is no growth. And one of the other concerns that it brings is even in King County, as Growth Management Act, it forces development to happen, especially industrial development, the tax base to form within the municipal boundaries. What that does is that it's decimated even King County, the rural aspects of King County, because no jobs or no businesses or no tax base can locate outside of the municipalities, meaning there's no tax base left for the county to operate roads, infrastructure out to the rural communities. That's something that we have to take a huge look at, and it's not being addressed under the Growth Management Act, and that's why I think counties should have that option to evaluate what's going to be in the best interest of a county. Is the county growing? Is the county shrinking? And looking at that should be a local decision because our counties are vastly different between King County and Stevens County or Astoria or Monjure or some of these other counties around the state.
My opponent made a very good point. Counties are different. However, do you say some counties need to be voluntary growth and some counties don't? Because is that what you're proposing? Is it some counties get to make it voluntary and some counties don't?
Under the current legislation, there are certain counties that get to opt out because of their lack of population growth and their current population standard.
Yeah, and unfortunately, most people don't want to live in those counties. And my concern with making the growth management voluntary is if we don't control growth in our community particularly, we're going to end up eating up all our ag land. And I have a real problem with growth management boundaries continuing to go outward. I mean, growth management means at some stage you have to make those boundaries permanent and you know, infill your cities, and that's my concern about our community. I don't want California here, basically.
So the best way to prevent growth from going into the agriculture community is to create a prosperous agriculture community, and that's what we need to do. We don't need growth management board.
Agreed.
Well, you get the next question. Recently, public sector unions joined with local Democrats and environmental groups in an effort to limit industrial growth at Cherry Point. Private sector unions have supported the creation of new jobs that this project implies. As an elected official, how would you mediate between these conflicting union interests?
I support deepwater port in Cherry Point. What I don't support is coal and oil. I don't believe it should be built for that. And I think that there are jobs to be had, but I also think that there's other places that we can have jobs, and I believe that if we have a deepwater port in Cherry Point, that we should be exporting things that are helping our world, not hurting our world, like grain and food and so forth. I think it's an opportunity for Ferndale and for our state to accommodate exporting things out of a deepwater port, but I'm concerned about the safety of trains bringing coal and oil through our communities, and I don't believe that at this stage there's been any legislation passed that would ensure me that the trains coming through our communities are perfectly safe. An average of 9 trains a month, freight trains in this country, derail, and I don't think any of us want to take the risk of our environment or the people in our community hurting the people or the environment. So I'm very concerned about the safety. I don't believe that coal and oil are a good commodity to be shipping out of Cherry Point. However, I do support a deepwater port in Cherry Point.
So when we want to look at the global impact of what's going on and what's better for the global environment or the global health of people, nothing is more suitable for global health than a global prosperity. And what that does, the biggest driver of global prosperity is easy access to energy. Energy is what has made the Western population really boom, and it's what has given us the health factor, the health benefits that we have, is what has given us the prosperity in the industry and everything as a society. Without access to energy, global health diminishes, global prosperity diminishes. What we're doing with global port is allowing access to a cheaper and actually a cleaner energy source for a lot of third world countries, whether it be China, whether it be India, and those communities have been able to prosper. If we don't allow the port to be either in Washington or in Oregon or on the West Coast here, we face a couple different deals. One of them is we're still going to have the coal coming through because it's going to go up to BC. And BC has actually just extended theirs, and so it's going to go there.
Okay, Vince.
I have a response. I believe that coal is not going to be the next source of energy for this world. I think the people of China are recognizing the pollution caused by coal-fired plants, and I don't believe that, I think in 2016 they have decided that they're not going to build any more coal-fired plants. So I think that investing in that kind of a facility, that huge facility, for something that is not the future of our globe, due to climate problems and all other sorts of things, that it's a very short-sighted investment in a very important resource that we have in Whatcom County.
As I suspected, nobody addressed the real issue, which was the conflict between union interests. The fourth question goes to Representative Wise. The Washington State Legislative Ethics Board recently voted a proposed rule which would prohibit legislators from accepting more than 12 free meals per year from lobbyists. You support this limits on gifts to legislators. Why or why not?
So the Ethics Committee is it's basically a bunch of, it's occupied by members of the legislature, and they make a decision, and that has been held by the legislature as a whole. So whether I support it or not, doesn't matter. We follow it, and we will follow it. One of the conflicts, or one of the, I think one of the downsides that I see of that is it's going to limit access for people to come and meet with us. Because if you come with any association group that you're involved with, you are limited to the or we are limited to the number of times we can sit down with constituents. If the Realtors Association comes down, that counts as one. If members of the auto industry come down, the auto dealers, which employ a lot of people here in Whatcom County, that counts as one. If the members of BP and people that they represent come, that counts as one. And a lot of other, every business in Whatcom County is represented by an industry association. If you don't think so, go and check, because it is represented by an industry association. And I believe that that is going to really hinder the ability. What we are going to be able to do is continue to have the receptions in which you come down, but it has to be a stand-up type reception, so we'll have tables, you know, kind of like this, where we can sit around and have that conversation, but we can't have those longer conversations talking about the issues that are important to Whatcom County. And I think that's going to be unfortunate, because if we do go over that, then we're in violation of the ethics laws. We can pay them, that's fine, we'll end up paying them. I don't have a problem with that.
Can you repeat the question? Because based on his response, I think I misunderstood it.
I'm sorry?
Can you repeat the question for me?
The question was, the Washington State Ethics Board recently voted a proposed rule that would prohibit legislators from accepting more than 12 free meals per year from lobbyists.
That's what I thought. Okay, I did understand it. I'm not sure why we would be restricted from meeting people because we have to pay for our own meals. It seems to me like as long as we pay for our own meals, it's sounding like we can meet with whoever we want as many times as we want. So I guess I'm just kind of confused. I think that it's really important to have long conversations with lobbyists and constituents and anybody who is involved in the issue that you're working on. And I'm not sure how restricting whether they pay for my meal or not is going to limit that in any way. So I definitely support it. I don't believe that people should be buying our meals. We get an ample per diem to pay for our own meals, and I don't have any problem using that per diem for that purpose.
what I think we're going to be seeing is kind of a chilling effect that goes through the industry associations, and really they're going to stop asking or scheduling events with their members because of the lack of attendance that people are going to have. We've already started to see members talking about, well, now who am I going to meet with, or who am I going to have time to meet with? So it's going to, like she said, we're going to have per diem, and we've had per diem for a long time, so we'll pay for it ourselves. It's not a problem.
Okay, you have a 1-minute closing statement then.
Well, thank you again for everybody for being here and taking part in this, and I really appreciate your support over the last 4 years. 4 years ago, we started a campaign, and most people thought it couldn't be done, and yet I got into the campaign because I believed that there needed to be changes, and I've been able to implement a lot of those changes and work towards representing all of Whatcom County, and I look forward to continuing to do that. I ask for your support this year. We got a little bit more than a month left. Ballots go out on October 15, and so make sure you get those into the mail, and I just appreciate your support. I appreciate working with you. If you have any questions, please come and find me afterwards. Thank you very much.
Like Vince said, thank you all for coming. This is a wonderful group. This has been a very informative debate. My first debate. It's kind of scary, but I'm over. It's over. I'm excited to go to Olympia. I'm excited to represent you. This has been such an amazing experience for me. I've learned so much. I've found my passion. My passion is poverty. I have to say it out loud because I really believe the effects of poverty are being seen in so many ways, and particularly financially to all of us, the prisoners that end up in prison, the children that end up with mental health issues, families that don't have enough food to eat. I'm working with the Farm to School program to try to get healthy food into our cafeterias, which I think is a wonderful program I'm hoping to expand. I'm excited. I'm excited about the opportunity. I think I have a lot of life experience that I can bring to this job, and I think I have a really good ability to connect with people and hear all perspectives, and I believe good decisions come when you listen to all perspectives. So thank you for tonight, and I would really appreciate your vote in November.